Hello and welcome to the Tinto Talks weekly recap, where I have a look at all of the developer comments, commentary, responses, and replies over the past week, and pick out the juicy bits so that we can learn a bit more about this game that we're all so very hyped about. Of course, today we have a couple of dev diaries to go over. The one for Bohemia, which is very timely and comes at a time when a lot of people are enjoying messing around in Bohemia in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is a fantastic game that I'm incredibly addicted to. And also the Tinto talk on formable countries. But before we get into those, I want to say, please subscribe to me. I would like to get some more subscribers, and that is only possible if you subscribe. And let's go on to the Sunday building. The Saturday building. We have here the Entrepôt. I have no idea how you pronounce the O with the hat on, so Entrepôt it will be for now on. It's an Age of Renaissance building that you can build in your market centres, and it gives you a bit more market attraction and a bit more trade capacity. Of course, you do need to keep all of the goods that it requires, the production method. You need to keep this stocked up to get these bonuses. Yeah, it's the same name as the upgrade to the market center building thing in EU4. The special one that takes up like 2 slots at the end of your building panel. Located in the heart of a bustling and vibrant market, the Entrepôt is the best place for our mercantile efforts to flourish. There's a couple of responses in here as well. If I understand correctly, it needs the 4 materials to keep the 2 effective. Yes, as I said before. The flavor text doesn't really explain what is an Entrepôt. It's an English word of French origin. That explains a lot. There's a lot of words like that. That is the cone one for what, in more modern terms, are the transshipment area and warehouse of a port. Some languages use words like Zolliger or Freeham. Fair enough. It won't be possible to build them in colonial outposts. Any place you got a market centre can have one. Kiev is a town and is a market centre, so at least towns can have be market centres too. We already knew that as well. Any location can be a market centre. If you want to build up the infrastructure for it to make it a powerful market, you need to be at least a town. So yeah, I mean, you can see here it can be built in cities and in towns. Very cool. Loving that. But now we move on to the Formables dev diary, and of course this piece of artwork which shows something heinous occurring. You don't put salt in tea. It's just not what happens. It's not what you should do. It's not what just no. But some of us have a different interpretation of the events, such as St. Dave here, saying it is his favourite historical event. It's heartwarming to see loyal British settlers celebrating King and Parliament by making the world's biggest cup of tea. That is certainly one way of looking at it, for sure. Certainly better than dumping tea into the harbour for silly reasons. Anyway, moving on to the actual commentary that is more important. In the text you say England is tier 3 and Great Britain is tier 4, but in the table it's the other way around, which is correct. The table is correct, and so England is tier 2, Great Britain is tier 3, so tier 4s can still be a thing, and what tier 4s we can see here. Maybe they can form the United States. That could be apparently a thing that Great Britain can form. Interestingly, fair enough. Why no United Kingdom formable? United Kingdom has additional flavour. It's for the Great British tag. I imagine you could probably get just a name change while still being the same tag. So maybe that is how the United Kingdom things will be added to the game. Potentially, maybe. Who knows? What's Africa supposed to represent? If it's similar, presumably continent-wide like Europa, shouldn't it also be a tier 5 formal? It represents the reformation of the medieval Sicilian kingdom of Africa, so Tunisia and neighbouring parts. Yeah, the term for the continent of Africa was named after the very specific small little region named by the Romans, which is like literally just the bit that is Tunis, like Carthage and the surrounding area. Although Carthage being a formable is certainly an interesting choice for the game, when so many others may in fact be missing. Shouldn't Germany be on tier 4 as well, together with the HRE? It's this way so Germany can be a stepping stone towards the HRE. that's fair enough. I mean, the Kingdom of Germany was, for a time, a part of the Holy Roman Empire, so I guess that does make sense. Having it the other way around, maybe less sense. So, yeah, I'm fine with this. I'm fine with this. Does it mean that Irish tags can create Great Britain or United Kingdom? Anglo-Irish tags can, but not regular Irish tags. The native Irish culture cannot form Great Britain. I guess they are limited to Celtica, although there's some contention about whether that is, like, a good word for it. It's certainly a word, apparently an exonym and not a very decent one, but I don't know. Both Byzantium and Rome are in Tier 4, so does that mean AI Byzantium will not form Rome? Once again, we're getting confirmation that Johann is bipolar at the very least. No, because he flips back and forth on whether Byzantium is Rome or not, but this is correct. This is objectively correct. Byzantium is the Roman Empire. They are. That is who they are. They call themselves the Roman Empire because they are the Roman Empire. And despite there being a thread that is how many pages long? 91 pages long of people arguing whether the Roman Empire, or whether it should be called Byzantium or the Roman Empire or Basiliaton Romaean or Empire of the Romans, etc., etc. Despite there being 91 pages of arguing back and forth between people who know history and people who pretend that Byzantium is somehow a better name and or is not the Roman Empire. It just is. It just straight up is. I mean, you're historically illiterate if you say otherwise. Anyway, moving on. What flag are you going to use for the Netherlands? The Princeton flag, so orange, white, and blue, or the Staten flag, red, white, and blue? He prefers the Staten flag because he's wrong. It is the Princeton flag. The orange is just objectively better. I don't know what to tell you, judge people. You fucked your flag. Moving on. Actually, speaking of the flag, the reason it turned to red, white, and blue rather than orange, white, and blue is because orange was too difficult of a dye to make, so you change your old frickin' culture because you can't make a dye. It's stupid. Go back to this flag. Like, modern Netherlands should move back to the orange flag. Just straight up. Yeah. Shouldn't the formables depend instead on the percentage of development in required regions instead of the literal location count? So, for example, owning 75% of the development in Scandinavia instead of 75% of the locations. Dev seems more logical to me. I mean, it depends on what you're talking about when it comes to dev, because development is a thing, but it's more like civilization value in Imperator rather than development in EU4. And adding development of various locations together to get something isn't really something that this game does or should do. Maybe he's talking about, like, the population of a place, of 75% of the population of Scandinavia instead of 75% of locations. I'm gonna say that that's what he means. So I'm gonna edit what he says. So population seems more logical to me. Maybe combine population and location count. Location count on its own seems to be a bit ignorant of the possible in-game situation. So Sant'Avi replying, they thought about that kind of thing using development or population to give locations a score towards country formables, but it becomes more difficult for players to understand what they need to achieve the goal, though, and it could lead to a weird situation where the player makes Denmark super developed and then can claim Scandinavia without even setting foot in Norway or Sweden. That's a pretty decent answer. This here specifically, like, if you can form Scandinavia without taking Norway or Sweden, something's gone wrong. Something's definitely gone wrong. I would like to heavily criticise your Scotland forms Great Britain flag. Scotland did form Great Britain. The English throne was inherited by Scotland. The Stuarts were Scottish and nephews of Robert the Bruce, who famously defeated the English. The normal Union Jack is the Scotland forms Great Britain. And there is always the narrative in EU games that this was the other way around, which always ends up with England ahistorically conquering Scotland. So, this is something that I've said a few times. It may have been and I said it in the comments of my video as well. There was a little bit of conversation about that. When the Scottish monarch became King of England, he moved his court to London, and by some accounts in the comment section, I actually did not know this, but I haven't looked into it, but I've read in my comment section, never returned to Scotland. Maybe that if that was just the court, maybe, or if it was the person himself, okay. But the 1707 Act of Union was a distinctly English-driven thing by a monarch who may have Scottish roots, but who was distinctly, like, ruling from England. So it absolutely makes sense that the modern British flag is English-driven, because that is how the Union was formed. And St. Dave here basically saying the same thing. Although James VI was Scottish, on balance, England was the initiator and winner in both the 1606 personal union and especially the 1707 political union, which the Formable most closely represents. Both were plots driven from London and went on to strengthen London as the political centre of the island, leaving Edinburgh politically weaker. Makes sense to me, makes sense to everyone, because it's true. There was also some interesting things. Like, I put it on Twitter about how I really quite liked the idea of, British flags being determined by who forms them, and I was thinking, maybe Wales could have a flag as well. So I found this one, which, you know what, if Wales forms Great Britain, having this as the flag would be absolutely just pure vibes. I would love that, unironically, for sure. There was also an idea that what if the Isle of Man forms it? Rosenkreutz asked me what happens if you form it as the Isle of Man, and so I made this in Photoshop. I don't think we should do this though. it's Isle of Man is maybe a little step too far, but it's funny regardless. It's funny regardless. And finally, from this Dev Diary, why are most Latin American republics missing despite achieving independence prior to 1837? There's only Mexico, but we're missing Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Central America, Rio de la Plata, just to name a few. Would also be nice to have Quebec, Louisiana, California, and Texas as well. So, Satave here saying that a lot of the colonial nations will be naturally called that way and won't need to use the formable system. There's definitely a good few suggestions here that can be formables that we can add, though. They are open to new formables. I asked people in my comment section to say what formables they want to see, and there was a bunch of really good suggestions, and I think that those should also be posted on the forums, because formables are fun, and I see no reason to not have literal shit tons of them, because I think it's amazing. And then, does Jerusalem Formable require any special primary culture or religion? You must be Catholic in either a military order or a country with historical connections to the old Crusader kingdom of Jerusalem. So, for example, Cyprus or Naples. I think Naples is going to be the easiest one to form it from there. But now we move on to the Kingdom of Bohemia. And, again, just very excited about this, playing this tag. Again, second tag I ever played in EU4. Likely to be pretty high up there when it comes to EU5 as well for me. So let's have a look at what some of the comments are. But first, before we go into this, I need to make I need to comment on something that I kind of embarrassed myself in the previous video, where I was like, I didn't know that Czechs were Slavic, and there is something to be said for needing to say things off the cuff while I'm recording a video and not taking, 3 seconds to actually think about it first. If you had asked me straight up what language group Czech is from, I would have said, having 3 seconds to think, West Slavic. Having, trying to say it off the cuff, I mean, it's not something that I've really ever given any thought to, so it's like, oh, yeah, that's fun, I didn't know that. Having, can you understand? So, yeah, I guess kind of embarrassed myself by not knowing that off the cuff, but I don't know. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Let's move on. Will Bohemia have some formables inspired by old history, which are still possible, but not fantasy, like the Albion Confederation if it decides to expand into Germany? Not currently, but I like this. I like the idea of fantasy formables. I just do. Albion Confederation, maybe Rhineland Confederation, all these kind of different things. Like I mentioned in the Dev Diary itself, something like Westphalia. All these kind of things I think should be in the game because they're just kind of fun. A Danubian Confederation as well could totally be a thing. If you form it as like Bavaria or something like that. Yeah, no, I want more. Just more formables because formables are fun. Is there any good reason, besides role-playing purposes, to choose the align with radicals option during the Hussite Wars? And this is something I mentioned as well. Like, it seemed like a pretty easy choice to go with aligning with moderates so that Austria didn't jump down your neck. You'd be more zealous in defending and promoting Hussitism, and you get bonuses towards that. What I would say is you have 50 years, 60, 70 years before this disaster will fire. So if you make yourself as strong as possible, maybe even getting Austria as an ally, maybe aligning with the radicals won't actually be too difficult. The extra countries that align against you, maybe they are weak, and you can align with them without dooming your little religious movement. I apologize for that. I'm not going to edit it out, but whatever. Sorry about that. So yeah, you'd be more zealous in defending and promoting Hussitism, so you might get some like conversion speed, more people might convert to Hussite, and you'd be stronger in the long run. But it makes the war part a little bit more difficult. So maybe that's, yeah, you got 70 years to prepare for this. So maybe it is something that you can do relatively, not easily, but relatively comfortably. Are there any plans to model the semi-hereditary and semi-elective nature of the Bohemian crown? Same with most other Central East European countries. It's currently normal hereditary. Some historical nuances are unfortunately difficult to portray in games sometimes. That's fair enough. If this was CK, I would expect otherwise, but characters are not the main focus of EU5. Succession is not the main focus of EU5, so this seems fine to me. Will there be a quick and convenient way of comparing units? It's something I've said a few times. Every time we've seen various units, there's no way to compare them. There are so many stats, it'd be lovely to have some hover comparison to see a potential new unit stats compared to a current unit. Possibly in the form of red and green numbers to see how much of a stat is higher or lower. Yeah, that would be great. At the moment, not there. Something to talk about with the UI guys. I hope he does, because that would be fantastic. I would change the death to Catholicism in the Hussite Wars event to something else. The Hussites considered themselves Catholics, so they would not say that. I'm not sure what they would say, though. Maybe death to name of the current pope. Sure. And then, they may consider different wording. Until when does Bohemia get flavour content? They formed a personal union with Hungary and Austria since the early 16th century, and at some points even earlier. But since personal unions are much more nuanced, I think they should be considered worthy of flavour, at least until the Battle of White Mountain in 1620. It has flavour for the duration of the game. Fantastic news. The crown of St. Wenceslas was only used for coronations as far as I'm aware, and then it was placed on the skull of St. Wenceslas for the rest of the reign, so it's not very realistic to show the king wearing it on a regular basis. I didn't know that. That's cool info. They can't have the king wearing it only for coronations, unfortunately, so for it to be visible, they have to make it always be worn. That's a little bit of a shame, honestly. If the king didn't really wear it on a regular basis, maybe he shouldn't be wearing it at all in-game. Just my kind of suggestion there, or my thoughts. Curious, is Hussite guaranteed to spawn every game? It will spawn during the Western Schism, which will certainly almost always happen. How almost always is almost always? Like, if I'm playing a really good Bohemia for 70 years, and then Hussite Wars don't spawn, I'm going to want to restart the game. So, yeah, how certainly almost always is certainly almost always. Will the Luxembourg dynasty receive some help in obtaining the emperor's title? Charles IV of Luxembourg, son of Jean, king of Bohemia and emperor of the HRA, is one of the most powerful leaders of the time period. Dynasty was also able to secure other thrones such as the Hungarian throne, etc. And also, what about the 100 Years' War? he doesn't answer that, so whatever. At the start of the game, Bohemia is the most powerful inside the HRA, so they're almost guaranteed to get the Emperorship at some point. That's fair enough. But certainly I'm looking forward to playing as Charles IV. Heard so much about him. Are you still sure this is the best way to represent the Polish-Teuton War? Decisive part of the war has already happened after 1333, and the war has been resolved peacefully without any battles. I didn't know that. That's cool to know. It's currently how they have it. The war is technically still ongoing, however, they're always open to iterations and reviews, and that goes on to here. But since 1332, there was supposed to be a truce until 1343. And he comes with a suggestion, maybe do a dynamic historic event in 1343 where Poland has the choice between relinquishing the cores on Pomerania and Kelmno in exchange for Kuyavia and Dobrzyń, which are owned by the Teutons, or to continue the war or status quo. It'll be an idea. They'll see what they can do about it, as it's something that always that involves multiple countries. They may do it in multiple passes. That's fair enough. Are events scripted to only affect specific countries' opinions of you, or do some of the events work in a radius? So basically talking about this affecting radicals or affecting moderates for the Bohemia Hussite decision. If you opt to change religions via event, it should technically affect the opinion of 50 plus Catholic countries next to you in the HRE. So some work on specific countries, others affect it all around you. What this one does, I don't know. I admit, I'm not an expert in Czech history, but I have a couple of notes. Will there be flavour for the League of Lords? Not right now, but it's something they'd like to add. Good, because that needs to be there. Feels very relevant to the early game Bohemia. It definitely does. Why does Hussitism instantly become the official religion of Bohemia? I'm pretty sure that's not what historically happened. Shouldn't it be more of a civil war that other countries get involved in? Then again, hard to create flavour for the complex chain of events regarding Wenceslas and Sigismund's reigns. It doesn't currently. It's just one of the options and only converts the country, the estate, not the population. I mean, it does a little bit of both, no? Isn't that what we saw in the event text? You get like 90,000 population converting. Will the Hussite faith appear if Bohemia no longer exists? Yes, it will appear to the owner of Prague. Fair enough. Flag variants. Yes, they already have quite a few in the game. There's some nice flags along the Hussite path. So, be interesting to see what the flag of Bohemia turns into if you become Hussite. Hopefully it's not just a red flag with the golden chalice, because I kind of like the Bohemian flag. The lion holding the chalice, though, that could definitely be a vibe. Dedarok saying he hopes there will be Skalitz and Kuttenberg. Kuttenberg's in the game. Of course, it is the second wealthiest city in Bohemia at the start of the game, as far as I'm aware. Skalitz is unfortunately too small. Well, also gets burned down in, 70 years into the game by Markvart von Aulitz. I actually have no idea if that's a historical person or not. Something to look into. Yeah. Moving on. I was looking around the various dev diaries. Oh, this is another thread entirely. Going on to just a random thread that somebody had posted. What gameplay mechanics to prevent the late game boredom or avoiding just being a map painting exercise of the whole world? And Johan has a couple of things to say on this. I'm looking for around the various dev diaries, having various issues with a lot of Paradox games when it comes to late stage gameplay. There's often not a lot you can do other than just keep expanding your empire until you painted the entire map in your colours. Johan saying, so far we've not seen anyone that have expanded that big in internal testing, and some are struggling even with getting historical Russian borders. Then again, the QA, clearly they're not very good at the game. They only have an average about 5,000 hours in EU4 before being hired. Terrible. Useless, really, I would argue. 5,000 hours is nothing. Clearly they need to have, oh god, almost 10,000 for me. Nice. Cool. But yeah, no, this is good to know. This is good to know that it is not going to be something that, the average player can just be like, you know what, I'm going to do a world conquest today. I'm sure world conquests will happen. Currently, the most difficult game to do a world conquest in is Victoria 2, and that has been world conquested multiple times now. Far fewer than have world conquested in any other game. So yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if it's not possible at all, but if it is possible, I think it's going to be closer to CK2 than closer to Vic 2 difficulty than it is to Vic 3 difficulty, which I would argue is the most easy to conquer the world in, if you can stomach the lag that will incur. Another comment, not another comment. I scroll down for the comment. Internal testing so far goes up to the end date, or are you more focused on a specific period, long term and close to the end date? Yeah, I mean, internal testing goes the whole way. Hope you're not going to make the game easier because of that. Of course not. Good to know. The game should not be easy. The game should be the game, whatever that may entail. But that's all I have for you for this week. I made the video today on Sunday rather than my usual Monday because tomorrow we are getting the Tinto maps update, the rework, the reflavor, the redo. We're getting that tomorrow for the HRE. So that is going to be super fun to look into. So I'm going to see you guys tomorrow for the HRE rework. And yeah, until then, thanks all for watching. Subscribe to the channel, write in the comments, and bye-bye.